So this is going to be part one of the Scout rebuild series. I've been trying to document the process, the build process, as well as I can. I've got a good majority of it, and it's taking longer than I expected, or more videos than I expected, so I'm not going to be able to fit it into one video like I had planned. But I think I've got enough footage for one, maybe 1.5 videos, so I'm going to drop part one, or start editing part one right now. And so this will take you through kind of an assessment of the damage, and then probably most of the repair process. Right now, I am in the sanding process of the rebuild, but I don't know if I'll get to that yet. So yeah, it's kind of choppy. It's updates when I can get them, and then a little bit of work, but yeah, hopefully this helps some people out with carbon fiber work, or gives you an idea on how to fix a Scout paramotor if you ever wreck something or break a spar or hoop section. So, yep, enjoy. Okay. Quick rundown on the damage. So, hoop. I damaged that hoop section, and it's hard to do backwards, and that hoop section with the prop. So the prop scored both of them, but both of them are fixable. So I think I should be able to get those pretty much fixed. So they got cracks like this in them. The netting is destroyed, but only right here. So a new net's like $143. So that's not bad. I might just get a new net and just re-rivet it to the hoop. Or I might just try to fix the net. I'm not sure. Next, I destroyed all of the spars. So all the spars are broken right here. So they all fractured. And there's other things like this piece fell off here. So most of these I can fix as well. So I think I can fix all that, really. I've not done any carbon fiber work in the past, but you know, I watched a bunch of videos and I think it's within my skill set. So I need to order a couple of these little ball joints here, because 2 of them sheared off. And then as well as one, I don't even know what this is, like a cage mating piece, and these sit on the end here and make a nice clean mating joint with the hoop. Enduro stand is done. So this got bent in shipping a little bit, and I bent it back, and it was at about the max that I would be comfortable bending aluminum back and still having structural integrity at that point. So this was bent at, like, I'm surprised this one didn't break here, but it was bent probably 45 degrees. And so I bent it back just to get it out, but that piece obviously broke, and that didn't. But even if it didn't break, I'd have to replace it, because there'd be nothing. I mean, there's no structural integrity left here in that joint. I could probably break that off with my hand. And then the hoop section that I'm probably not going to be able to save, although maybe I'll do this one last, and maybe if my carbon fiber repair skills are looking good on the other pieces, I'll give this a shot. But it's pretty messed up. I'm gonna have to really clean it up and try to fix that, but we'll see. But yeah, that's the extent of the damage. Literally nothing happened to the motor or the harness or anything like that, which I was super stoked about. So it's been about a week since the accident, and today was the first day that I actually came out to look at this, because I was pretty sick about it. Still not too happy, obviously, but you know, I'll come out here and I fired it up and it starts and runs fine. So that's the high dollar item, right? The motor. So I'm pretty happy about that, I suppose. And yeah, like I said, so I'm gonna start getting to work on this, and I'll probably put this all into one video. I won't document the whole process, but a little bit here, a little bit there, and hopefully if someone has a similar accident or needs to do carbon fiber repair, it'll be informative for them. So yeah, I think that's about it. Oh yeah, so here's the epoxy resin that I have. We'll see if I end up using this, but did some research, and this looks to be like it'll be good for what I'm trying to do. And in here I actually just have a roll of carbon fiber. So I forget how much I ordered, but it was actually pretty cheap. I think this was like 30 bucks, or no, this was like 20 bucks. And it's like a square yard or more of carbon fiber, so it should be enough to give me a couple of layers on all the structural pieces that I broke, and still have some left over. But it looks to be pretty good quality. I've unrolled it a little bit, and I mean, even the edges of this are sewn so it doesn't unravel. So it got good reviews on Amazon, so I'm hoping that works out good for me. Yeah, and that's it. So the rest of the video will probably be me fixing the Scout. So yeah, man, I gotta get this fixed and get back in the air, because of course right when the wind dies down and the weather gets nice, I fuck up. So alright, peace. Okay, so I'm a couple parts in already, but here's what I've learned so far. Okay, so this is one that I've already super glued back together. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm sanding the fracture surface here, so that, because there's little bits of carbon fiber that were sticking out. I already sanded all these, but you can kind of see there those little chunks, and they're preventing me from actually putting it back together nice and smoothly. So I left like the major peaks and valleys of the fracture surface, but sanded off all the minor ones. And then what I'm doing is I'm fitting it back together and then filling the gap that I created by sanding that with Q-Bond. So that's kind of what you see right here. So this, I gotta fill that still, but you see that little hole? So I'll fill that with Q-Bond and sand it. But here was a bigger hole. So this is the Q-Bond powder right there, and I just sanded it smooth. So super glued it back together, or fitted it, super glued it, poured the Q-Bond powder into the cracks, more super glue, sand, and then you can keep doing that over and over until you get it as smooth as you want. Now I'm going to do this for all the spars, and I'm still going to cover this with carbon fiber, so it doesn't need to be a perfect finish, but you don't want any bumps, I'm assuming, right? So because that might show through on the other side of the carbon fiber when I put it on. So the carbon fiber, I'm going to do a couple layers of that, so it should cover all the imperfections, but I'm thinking a lot of the strength and integrity of the part here you're going to need to do now. So with projects like this, and again, I'm not an expert, but prep work is everything. So the carbon fiber is going to be the last thing I do, and then I'm going to go ahead and clean it up and wet sand it and get it as pretty as I can. So you try to make it as seamless as possible. But so this is the first step, and I'm going to go through and do this to all the spars. And as I'm doing this, I'm also fitting them on. Well, that was dumb. You can't see it, but I'm fitting it on the paramotor. I'm going over to the paramotor and sliding them on, making sure that everything fits, because obviously you don't want to have to re-break it. So yeah, I'm going to get these all done, and we'll have an update in a little while. Peace. Oh yeah, so dig this. This is my wall of Seamus. So this is the prop that I had on the Scout when I ate it. It's done. I mean, I don't even have the pieces. They flew somewhere and disintegrated. The mini plane one, I think this is fixable. I still have the major chunk here, but that wasn't while flying. I was running it up on the ground, and I left a bungee cord around the seat, and it got sucked in and wrapped around the prop and broke. So hopefully I don't have to add any more to that wall, but it's a good conversation starter if nothing else. Alright, back to it. Okay, so here's another one that I just did. So I'm learning as I go, right? So in this one, so what I'm doing first, I'm super gluing the parts back together before I put any cube on. So I'm sanding to rough up the surface, which really I could probably do after this, but I'm just trying to get all the, because I usually put WD-40 on the carbon to make it look nice after I fly and clean, so I'm just cleaning all that off. Then I'm super gluing them back together just to hold it in place, and then I'm putting that Q-Bond powder again in there. So if you don't wait long enough for the super glue to dry and you put the Q-Bond powder on the crack, it actually sucks the super glue out of the crack into the powder, and you don't have time to spread it out. So it's not that big of a deal. I actually almost prefer it this way. So when I'm putting the Q-Bond on there, like I said, it sucks the super glue right out of the crack, and I mean it immediately hardens. Like, this is rock hard. So I'm gonna have to really sand that down. I might even get a file to get the big chunks off. But yeah, and then I'm just putting more super glue and really soaking it. And it soaks in like a sponge to that powder. And like I said, it hardens almost instantly. You don't even have enough time to put down the super glue bottle and kind of rub the super glue out. Another thing I'm doing is I'm putting the super glue on, and this is that watery super glue. It's not the gel kind, so it, like I said, it soaks right in. And then I'm using my finger to spread out the super glue across the surface. I'm just trying to keep everything as smooth as possible. I don't care if I'm getting super glue all over this, because I'm going to sand it, and I'm also going to cover this in carbon fiber. But yeah, I'm getting, super glue fingers, but who cares? Yeah, so I'm going to grab a file and file that down, and then get that sanded up, and yeah, continue. Peace. Alright, so here's that same spar, and these were those big chunks. So I used the file, or a file, and just sanded down those bigger peaks, so that you're not sanding and hitting the carbon, right? Because you don't want to go too deep when you're sanding. You don't want to actually get to the carbon. You just want to rough up the surface. So if you're using sandpaper to try to get those big peaks, you're going to be hitting here and here and sanding too much. So this file allows you to kind of focus your, I don't even know what abrasion, focus your smoothing, whatever the verb would be, on a more localized spot. So yeah, that's kind of what it looks like after you Q-bond it, and you can see how much Q-bond I'm using to fill these cracks, and that's because I sanded off. There you see I need a little more there, and I'm only doing that because I really think that, I know the carbon fiber is going to give it a lot of strength, but I don't know, I just feel like filling all these cracks with Q-bond and super glue, it couldn't hurt, right? And I got time, so. Alright, I'm going to fit this to the paramotor, make sure it slips on, and then I'm going to finish the Q-bond and move on. Alright. So another thing I'm doing with the Q-bond is when I put the Q-bond in the crack, so I drizzle the powder in the crack, then I put the super glue on there and it hardens, right? But right below the surface, the super glue is still wet, and I'll sand it immediately before the super glue dries, so that all the clear coat that I'm sanding off of here acts as an additional filler and gets soaked into the super glue. So you kind of want to sand right away if you can. At least I think that's a good idea, right? Because then all that fine sanding dust from the clear coat is really filling in the cracks where the larger grain powder is not fitting into. So there's different size grains in the powder, so you can kind of move it around with your finger until you find the correct size that'll fit into the crack. But the real small cracks, I'm filling with actual clear coat dust, sanding dust. So another tip. Alright, peace. Alright, so I've got 4 of the spars done, or not done, but ready for carbon fiber. So you can see that's my best one probably. But surface is roughed up, it's cleaned up, all the cracks are filled, all the aluminum inserts are in the correct spot. So there's a little aluminum insert, you can see it in there, that gives it a little more rigidity for where it clicks into the paramotor. And then I just used vinyl line to plug that hole, and I'm going to use Play-Doh to plug this hole when I go to do the carbon fiber. So the line that I had sitting around the diameter wasn't the correct size, so I just threw some tape tape on there until it's the right diameter to plug that hole. Next step, I'm going to fix these other 2 spars. So I have 2 more that are broken. I'm going to fix those. But these 2 have the ball joint here, well, what used to be a ball joint, sheared off. So there's these little ball joints at the end that click into the cage, or the hoop section rather, and you can see it sheared off when I crashed. So I got to extract that bolt. It's not focusing. Yeah. Or whatever. It's broken off in there. Just believe me. And yeah, so I got to extract that. So I'm going to take it to work and see if someone in the machine shop at my work can extract that for me. So I was almost not going to try to fix these, but I'm pretty confident that the guys at my work can get that out. It's really in there though, so I don't know. I may just re-drill and tap it, which is possible as well. But all right, let's keep going. All right, so here was an interesting one. So in this spar, it cracked, but it didn't fracture all the way around. So it cracked, and the crack ran down the seam, and this aluminum end piece popped off. Okay, so I lined everything back up. I had to kind of pull it apart to get the fibers to intermingle again because I couldn't sand it like I've been doing on the other ones. So it really had to fit perfectly. So I pulled it apart a couple times as much as I could without breaking it, and kind of fit it back together as best I could. And then put super glue on the carbon fiber and push this piece on. The problem is that I pushed the piece on before I could get it to push all the way down into that gap. It locked in place because this super glue dries so damn fast. So what I did was I immediately took it over to the paramotor, put it on here, and it didn't fit, right? So this little, I don't even know what these are called, depression pin, I'll call it for now, was low. So it was toward this, it was this direction, right? It wasn't going in all the way. So I also noticed that the aluminum piece was a little bit shifted. So all I did was take a 3/8 drill bit. If I had a drill press, that'd have probably been a better option. I just went slow and kind of reamed the hole out a little bit to even it out, and it worked perfectly. It took not much, right? Just a little bit to clean up the inside of that hole. And then it still didn't fit. So what I did was I took a little bit of material off the end here, and I did that just using a little bench sander. So just a rotation here. Just turn that on, and I kept taking a little bit off at a time and walking back. So I probably took a little bit off and walked back to the paramotor and tried maybe 10 or 15 times just until it was absolutely perfect. So then you're also going to have to clean up the inside here because you're going to get a little burr from the sander. But yeah, I cleaned up the inside, and every time I hit it with compressed air to get all the aluminum shavings out because you don't want that getting stuck on the paramotor. Made sure it was clean, kept going back and forth, back and forth. I still haven't fixed it, by the way, but like I said, you want to make sure it fits first. So double check. It should snap right in place. Yeah, perfect. So that's what it should look like. You should have a little bit out, and before it was stuck all the way in, right? So yeah, that's how I fixed that. And now I know it's going to line up perfectly when I go to glue everything back together. Alright. Okay, so just about ready for carbon fiber. This is prepped and ready to go. Got my sheet of carbon fiber here. And I haven't really decided how I'm going to do this yet. But I think I'm going to take this out, wrap it, and then kind of work like a pick into the hole until I can fit this back through so that it's nice and wrapped around this and I don't have to cut a hole later, or I don't have to cut strips of carbon fiber to go around it. So yeah, I measured this diameter. That's about 1 inch. So diameter times pi means I'm going to need about 3.14 inches here. And then the length of it would just be however far I want to come up onto the spar, which I think I'm only going to come up to here. I think you want to leave enough that you have enough fibers for the strength, but I don't want to come up onto this clean section here. So I think I'm going to cut a piece out, being careful because it will unravel if you move it around too much after you cut it. You can already see the edges here are unraveling. So I'm gonna get that cut out, put on. I'm gonna hold it in with the rubber bands, or hold it in place with the rubber bands. Mix the epoxy in there. Use that brush and coat it. So after that, just gotta wrap it in electrical tape and wait 24 hours. So I'm gonna give this a shot. This is the first one I'm doing, so I'll probably do a couple before I give advice on it. But yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so I've got 3 done. There's 2 here. You can get an idea what it looks like there while it's curing. This is kind of the setup I'm using to do this. So I've just got like a little hobby vise here that's pretty nice because you can adjust either side to adjust the length, so I can get it to fit the spar nice and tight in there. This is the carbon fiber sheath that I'm using. So someone brought it to my attention that I should be using sheath, and they're right. It'd be stronger if I had like a sheath, kind of like a Chinese finger trap style, which is what the Scout repair kit comes with. So if I had that, I can kind of slip it over the spar, and it'd be stronger because it'd be a continuous weave all the way around, and I can get it real tight. But I'm not doing that. I'm just taking what I need out of the sheet and wrapping it. So it's not going to be as strong, but like I said, I took a lot of time before I put the carbon fiber on there to make sure that everything was glued back together, and I used the Q-bond to fill all the gaps. So I think it's going to be strong, but just in case this doesn't end up working, I'm stopping at 3. I feel like it's going to work just fine for what I need. But I'm gonna let these 3 cure up, and tomorrow I will, or tonight, no, tomorrow, because I need 24 hours, I'll come out and sand these and see how good I can get it to look. I may have to put another coat of epoxy if I want to get that glossy sheen, and I do want that, so I might end up doing that. But in either case, I'm going to try to finish these 3 before I finish the rest of the carbon fiber work, which I have laying over there. So, yeah, so how I did it was, like the tubing I went over before, so I just, what I would do is clean up, so the surface was clean. I wrapped the carbon fiber around the tube, around the spar, secured it with rubber bands on either end, and it's not easy to work with. It does unravel when you start working with it. If you unravel it a couple of strands, it's actually good, because then you can get it to mate real nicely with the existing carbon fiber. But it's not easy to work with, so you got to be really careful, and you have to make sure you have it exactly where you want it before you start putting the rubber bands on, because that rubber grabs the carbon fiber and pulls the strands out. So once it's on, you can't move it. So I put the rubber band on the inside, put the rubber band on the outside to hold it in place. Then I used just like a standard pick. And I found that hole, and I separated the carbon fibers like really nicely, just so I can fit that tube in there. Alright, the phone's chumping up. So once I separated the carbon fiber and got the tube in there, that was pretty much it. Then I just put one piece of tape on the end to hold the carbon fiber in place. At this point, next, after I got that in, I put the resin on. So you just dab the resin on with like a paintbrush. So I used like just a chip brush here, and I mixed the epoxy. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I mixed the epoxy before I did all this, and it's already starting to tack up, so it's pretty much not usable anymore, because when it's that tacky, it kind of pulls the carbon fiber when you go to dab it on. You don't want to brush it on either. You want to dab to get it nice and soaked. Then I put a piece of tape on. Remove the first rubber band, continue to tape, and you really have to hold the tape as you're doing it, because again, you don't want to pull the tape and have it pull the carbon fiber. So taped it up, wiped away the excess, and now we're gonna wait for it to dry. So yeah, see how it goes. Okay guys, that wraps up the first part of the build series. Again, I kind of went into a lot of detail on all that stuff, so it might not be a really enjoyable watch, but I'm kind of aiming these more towards someone who might need them for reference when they're repairing their paramotor. When I was looking for paramotor videos, I couldn't find much out there other than Miroslav's video on repairing his Scout, or repairing the Scout, and other than that, I couldn't find much how-to stuff. So hopefully this helps. In part 2, I go into more of I show more of the work. I try to show more. I realize I didn't show a lot this time around, but in the next part I should be able to wrap up everything. So I got the hoop section done already, so I'll put that in that video, and the rest of the spars. And right now, as I'm making this video, I'm in the sanding process. So I'm taking a lot of time to do that, wet sanding everything, and going over it and trying to get it as perfect as I possibly can, to make the joints as seamless as possible. So I'll take you through that in the next one as well. But yeah, hopefully this helps someone out in the future, and hopefully it's not too boring, and yeah, I hope to get back in the air soon and get some flying. So yeah, I hope you liked it, and thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace. When the morning, baby.